Unlock your potential with a comprehensive suite of investing tools and expert education with GammaEdge. Start your free 14-day trial today. The orange structure is when the left-hand plane, here, let me just go grab one. I'll just go ahead and run it so you guys know what you're looking at here. I'm going to go up to charting, bronze charting right now, and I'm just going to run $NDEL for net delta, and I'll just run it on, say, SPX P07, and we'll just run, I don't care what we are, 41.75 to 43.75. So we'll give this a second here. And this is going to give you basically both of those planes, and it'll also give you some strikes. The strikes are not listed here. I don't think this information needs the strikes specifically. But what's important to you, and what the whole concept behind this and doing it with Charm, Gamma, Vanna, which you can do, is where is the source of stuff coming from? Oh, I ran this completely wrong. I don't know why. I'm an idiot. I don't know why somebody didn't say you fat-fingered something here. Let's try this one more time. The takeaway is that you want to be able to understand, like for delta, are we seeing overhead? Are we seeing call-dominated overhead? Now, when we say that, we talk about that in the voice, we write about that. Call-dominated overhead is out-of-the-money calls, and you'll see that here on the chart here shortly. And when you have out-of-the-money calls, that's a sign of speculation, of upside speculation. And you need that in order for price to move up. You do. You're not going to get it without it. So here's the SPX. The edge, of course, is the next expiry. We're after 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, so this is indicating Thursday. And the calculation right now with the information we have below us, we have out-of-the-money put speculation that is driving the conversation for tomorrow. We also have in-the-money put speculation, which is present and driving the conversation above us. So this is called a put-dominated structure. So in the SPX, if Dan were to do his magic, Dan would return a red color, right? So we would see for SPX a continuation pattern of redness. And there are other states when you look at this, right? You could have, because it's on the left-hand side, right? So this is the left hand of the net plane, and the left hand of the net plane can also be in-the-money calls. So if this were in-the-money calls, you could have an in-the-money call and an in-the-money put. And in-the-money is actually this yellow, kind of this beige, or I don't know how it's appearing on your screen, but it's a light yellow. You could imagine a scenario where you have out-of-the-money puts on the left-hand side, and you have, instead of in-the-money puts on the right-hand side, you have out-of-the-money calls. So now you've got speculation to the downside, and you have speculation to the upside. That's the orange color. And then finally, you have massive amounts of calls below us and massive amounts above. We don't have that here with this one, but you would have in-the-money calls and in-the-money or out-of-the-money calls, and before you know it, there you go. You're off to the races. And so if you're a bull, you want to see that speculation type of situation, the yellows or the oranges that I was talking about, and you don't want the upper half to be, or we believe you don't want the upper half to be locked into in-the-money puts. So let me pause right there and test everyone's comprehension of what I'm saying. Why would that be? If I have in-the-money puts that are ruling the roost here, why does that matter? Anybody? Don't be bashful. Come on, people.
I can give it a shot.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, great. I probably should know the answer, hopefully.
I hope you do.
Yeah, right.
But if you don't, that's fine, because we'll all learn together. All learn together.
Yeah, exactly. So those in the money puts have a delta, like a negative delta that's higher than 50, and as time passes and the spot SPX does not cross back over, that delta gets bigger and bigger and becomes a larger hedging liability on the dealer's book. So they just have to continually keep selling futures against that as it eventually locks in towards minus 100 deltas.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to describe it. So let's just go look at the XLE. I don't know if XLE is what its state is right now, but we can just look at it in the web tool. But no, I think you nailed it, right? So if I think the takeaway is to basically say if the overhead is call dominated, then basically those calls, even though they're out of the money, they're decaying because of the charm. It's still very constructive to upward movement. The dealer response as price moves up through that area, they're hitting positive gamma in that particular case, and as you move up, our book is getting longer, the dealer's book is getting shorter, and all things considered and balanced, the dealer has to buy, and that leads us to go to the upside. Now, the flip of that is exactly as you just described. When you have in the money puts above us, they're decaying towards minus 100, and so that's exactly the situation we're in with the SPX, for instance, where you got this huge just overhang of negativity sitting on top of us. So even if we were to get a rally, and note, we retested back up to 42.90 today. We didn't break through that. And by the way, that should be a number that everybody recognizes from the morning notes. But we couldn't get out of the zero. We couldn't break through that. And the reason is because those deltas are growing. And for the SPX, it's what is the transition looking at, and what is the expiry looking at. So here I've got the XLE. I selected the near expiry, and you can see below us we have calls, and above us we have calls. And we say, even though we have negative or put dominated gamma below spot price, which is our relatively below spot price, we have basically all the in the money calls here, green, and out of the money calls, green. So XLE, by my eye, without Dan running his magic, is going to print a green for tomorrow. And this is going to be suggestive of supportive into Friday, all things considered, right? So this is a good structure. It's an upward trending structure. And we have speculation to the upside. And even though there are puts that are definitely trying to come through here, that's what you're seeing here below the yellow bar. The smaller numbers, at least that we see below 89 and below, they're in the money. Their deltas are fairly significant, and that's why you see green down here. So the takeaway is this: how do you use this information? And I think this is the major takeaway. If you don't see any upside speculation, it's going to be really hard to make progress if you're a bull, because you need those calls being open to the upside. And so if we have an in the money situation to the north, for instance, in the money call or put situation to the north, this is the SPX. This is run just before the close. You can see, clearly what the deal is here. And then down below us, you can see we're very, very much out of the money put dominated in terms of deltas below us. And so if you were to run the SPX right now, like we just saw, it said out of the money on the left hand side of the plane, which is all this down here, and it said in the money on the right hand side of the plane, which is all this right here. It's going to be really hard to make progress until this starts to change. Now, for the new folks that are here, you haven't seen that change. To me, this is one of the more magical things. For the old timers who are here and you're yawning at this, you've seen it. But you'll get every indication as we start transitioning, or not, right? You'll get a sense of a failure of a transition where we actually are unable to make the leap into the next realm, the next state. But taking, Dan's work and just conveying it in terms of what we see, with, the different web chart or the web tool, I think is very useful, and you get a very good sense of what you're looking at. So you can look at this chart, or you can look at Dan's chart and instantly know what's happening with the stock. You can scan this incredibly well, and you know what the market is doing. Lots of red. Okay, put dominated. I got it. What day did it start on? Okay, it started right around 9:15. These are weeklies. Makes sense because this is on a week-to-week basis. So, yep, the alignment's good. Back here where it's all green, going up, makes sense. And if you were to take a look at the little, I forget, Dan, what do you call these? The inlaid charts here?
Spark lines.
Yeah, the
That's
spark lines.
Spark lines. Yeah, that's what they are.
Yeah. If you look at the spark lines, you'll have a very good sense of what the price is doing and it's related. All right. I think I've beaten that one pretty well here. Let me check and see for any questions. Negative deltas above, downward pressure. Well, or lack of an ability. Wall Street, I want to be clear here. If I've got lack of speculation to the upside, which is in the form of out of the money calls, then this is where charm gamma will just keep a lid on things. And so I would say if you're in the money on the right-hand plane, you're going to have a hard time making progress. And so, we've had a couple users ask about, how do you prepare for the next turn? Well, we don't know exactly when the next turn is going to be. It could be tomorrow. It could be 2 weeks from now, or it could be 2 months from now. I mean, we don't know how much we're going to pull back here. This is not necessarily predictive, but it does show what the market, and because what you see on the screen right now are weeklies, it does show kind of on a week over week basis how people are positioning in the near-term expiry. So when you run the NDEL, you're literally looking into a crystal ball. You're seeing how people are positioning for the next expiry, which for the ETFs and most of the stocks are weeklies. So they check out on Friday. Can I explain the nature of 29 September 4010? Yes, I will. So let me finish up here with Wall Street, and then we can move over to what is the nature of the 29 September stuff. So as Dan was saying, downward pressure will build as time passes and those strikes stay in the money. We have no speculators above. Well, not, this is the fear and greed. Who knows why we would have or not have. I mean, by my eye, we actually saw calls go in today, not enough to turn any of the strikes. But if you scroll back here in voice chat before we started here tonight, James and G2 and a few of us were having a discussion about, how we were looking at the slices from 2:15 to 2:30 to 2:45 to 3 o'clock. And it's very clear. You can see the shift in momentum, what we call the centroid. The calls started populating out, and if calls are populating in volume and prices moving up, you have some assurances that you've got speculation. When we say out, those are the out of the money, contracts. So in a short term, we were starting to see the OTM out of the money calls build. That was the first attempt. That's the first run at trying to get out of the money speculation, either direction, in this case to the upside. Now, they were successful in the 0DTE. They were able to pull us through the 4250. And when we lost that negative GEX at 4250, we basically had to unwind when we dropped through the gamma of 4250, which was a fairly significant amount. I think there were 20,000 put contracts there or something. And so what that means in the big picture is when you unwind that, and it's bigger at the end of the day, right? That's more of a slingshot as you go to the north. And I think that's in part what we saw getting slingshot through that 4250. And then that's the greed. That's the greed component of people saying, all right, we're not going back down. I'm going to get on board here, and I'm going to open the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. And that's pretty much what I think we saw today. There was some discussion of, gamma squeezes and all this other stuff. And I don't know. I have my brain process is toast for that right now. And so I'm not going to comment one way or the other, but I think this was just pure fear and greed. I think we talked about this earlier in the day, that 4240 looked to be the low side of the Vol D targeting for the day, and we got down to 4238, 63, and that's all she wrote. We didn't get much more puts being opened below, so that would be out of the money put speculation to the south or to the left hand plane or whatever the case may be. And so When you don't get that, and then you don't make any further progress, that scares all of those people who had opened earlier. They start closing those puts that are there, and the people who are at the money or in the money start saying, okay, price is reversing, I'm going to lock this in while I can. They close their puts, and now you start getting that push upward, and then all of a sudden the bulls come out of the woodwork, and here we go.